We're back. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Dyson's back.
Yeah.
Say hellos.
Welcome back to Themes to Be Seen. So we're both kind of a little bit rattled today. We had a carbon monoxide scare last night.
A full-on gas leak in the basement.
Yeah, so we were at a belated Christmas gathering with friends, and I had just purchased a carbon monoxide detector in this past week, and we set it up on Thursday, and we got home about 2:30 a.m. last night, and as soon as I got up to the door, I could hear an alarm going off, and it's a carbon monoxide smoke detector in one. And so it'll like beep 3 times and then it'll speak to you. So it was like beeping, and then it was saying carbon monoxide warning. And it was really scary. And
so we got the animals. We got
were
Dyson and Freddie
out in our cars.
They got to sit in the car. I dealt with the fire department and consumers and tried to figure. Apparently, our boiler was on fire, but there was so much gas that it had taken up all the room, and there was no oxygen for it to explode. So the consumers guy had to put a gas mask on and go down into the gas, turn the fire, cut the boiler off of gas so that there was no fire, so that we could let the gas out so it didn't explode.
Yeah, and I don't know what would have happened if we didn't have that alarm.
Yeah.
Because they said it could have exploded last night and taken out this house and the neighbors on either side of the house, as well as neighbors across the street. You just never know with that kind of thing.
They also said it could have put itself out and we would have just never woken up.
Yeah.
But now...
If you don't have one of those detectors in your home, I would highly recommend it.
Please do it.
Especially during the winter months. You just never know. We're on the 2nd floor, and you have neighbors that are like right on top of the basement, and the levels of carbon monoxide were the highest in this apartment. So yeah, if we had stayed home last night, I don't know what would have happened. We have no idea how long the alarm was going off for. And it was super loud, so I'm surprised none of the other neighbors, heard it or anything. But very scary stuff. That has always been a big fear of mine, and especially in light of recent news, that house explosion in Flint that took out 3 houses around it, and there was 2 brothers in Maryland, I think. During the snowstorm, they were trying to keep warm, and they died of carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yeah, but they were trying to heat.
They had a generator,
like a propane thing.
Yeah, but it's, you never know, especially if you live this isn't a typical apartment. It's like a house that's set up with apartments, so it's not like a typical complex. You never know what your neighbors might, have going on in their apartments. It's just always good to be safe. So I think the detector we got was $26. So it is a good investment.
It is.
It's just weird that it was on my mind for a while to get one. And then this week, I just felt tempted to really go out and buy one, and it's creeping me out. I've just been creeped out all day,
So there are some downsides. So as of now, we have no heat. It's about 53 degrees in here.
Yeah, so
it's not cold, but it's not comfortable.
So as soon as we're done with the show, we have a friend who very graciously is allowing us to stay the night at their house, so we'll be taking Freddie, our guinea pig, and Dyson, of course, and we both have to work tomorrow, so I'll be coming back in the morning to work from here, and hopefully we get heat tomorrow, but
yeah, they said they're gonna have to buy a whole new boiler. That one's pretty much totaled, so who knows how long it's gonna take. When we know, we'll put it up on the page. Now that PSA is out of the way, I'm Matt Klaus.
I'm Tara Kostic.
We're themes to be seen. Thanks for joining us today. We have this is our first 3-segment show in 3 weeks. First
episode of the new year.
Which a year that's already turning out suspicious.
Right before we came live, we found out Bob Saget passed away.
I don't.
What is happening?
That's unconfirmed, but also like believable.
I saw other people posting it. Like TMZ is reporting it that he died in a hotel room. They don't know what happened yet, but like, what is happening lately? So
we did also lose one of the greatest stage actors to have ever lived this year already, Sidney Poitier, who.
Actor, activist.
Yeah. Overall, beautiful human being. We lost him this year. He was 95.
Yeah.
Which, he lived a full life, and he'll always be remembered as absolutely legendary. Since we took our break, we also lost an absolute legend and queen, Betty White. So that's a bummer. She's a big fan of the Golden Girls. And
when I was little, my siblings and I loved watching the Golden Girls. We didn't call it the Golden Girls. We called it Grandmas.
Grandmas.
We were like, we're watching Grandmas. But yeah, that show's always
Were any of them depicted with kids?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I never. Okay.
Well, even... I mean, if they weren't, like, we were kids watching this show, so we saw them as grandmas, even though the ages they were on that show are, like, the equivalent of what the Sex and the City cast is today.
Right.
I saw a TikTok video, actually, a person, like, went and put modern hair on them, so they do look more like, it was just the hairstyles, I think,
but still
that made them look older. And then of course Estelle Getty, they purposely made her look older because I believe she might have been like a year younger than B. Arthur, or they were around the same age, and she played her mom, so they purposely like made her look older.
Right. But she was a comedian forever. She was a comedian. She was a comedian at the beginning of, like, colored film. Like, she'd been doing comedy forever. So, but, we're definitely going to miss Betty White. Everything she did was absolutely entertaining, and she was a beautiful human being. Animal rights activist.
Yep.
Civil rights activist.
Yep.
So that's a bummer. 2022. English, Matt. 2022 is not starting out on the greatest
note. It's
note.
like the memes that are like, you pronounce 2022 like 2022.
2021, this is month 13. Anyway, 3 segments today. First segment on... I didn't realize I already had the pictures running.
Oh, yeah.
It's fine.
So, this, for Scene Again this week, we did the movie Saved, which was a movie from 2004. I hadn't seen it since about the time it came out. I remember liking it a lot, though. I liked the cast in it a lot. This was your first time seeing it ever.
It was great. I love this movie so much.
Yeah. So, those of you who may not know, I've always liked, the kind of more inappropriate, kind of campy, satirical movies.
See, I don't feel like this is campy. I feel like this is absolutely poignant.
It's not as campy as, like, other films. Like, I've always loved John Waters movies, and then growing up, like, independent films like But I'm a Cheerleader, just stuff like that, because movies that just poke fun at how absurd life is, that stuff has always spoken to me. Like, why not just laugh at things?
And it's not as over the top. It's a excellent satire, but it's not as over the top as something like Wet Hot American Summer.
And it's not as, like, cruel as, like, some other films might be. Like, there are some, like, inappropriate lines said by characters, but it doesn't have... It's not like a Heathers. It's not as cruel.
Heathers
is
mean-spirited on purpose.
Like, Heathers is one of my all-time favorites, and yeah, like, this pokes fun at, like, religion, and but it's not as, like...
It pokes fun at the societal thought of religion. Not the appropriate actions of people who are religious. Mm-hmm. The idea that being religious means this one thing. Mm-hmm. And to do anything necessary to live by that, even if it means completely going against it.
Mm-hmm. It really is like a bubble. It's just like a bubble of these characters. And even the characters who, you know, aren't, like, the best, everyone in this movie, I feel, is, like, three-dimensional.
Yes.
Because you don't... The characters who aren't, like, the greatest, like, at the end, the outcasts are still, like, pretty forgiving. They still care about these other people. Right. Because it's like...
In a lesser movie, at the climax of this film, the characters we're supposed to care about would see what happens to the mean girl character, and it would be like a laugh. In this...
Like Jawbreaker, the end of Jawbreaker, they're kind of similar. And I made that comparison. Yes. They both have that, like, school dance reveal at the end, but it's not, like, harsh. Like, you're not laughing at the bad person.
Then again, in Jawbreaker, that the bad girl in that is not portrayed as having anything sympathetic to think about her.
Plus, in that movie, there's an actual death.
There's an actual, like, murder.
Yeah,
a couple.
Yeah.
And Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But yeah, and it does poke fun at, you know, a lot of the religious aspects. There's some cringy dialogue, like characters trying to be hip.
But also not making as big of a deal as other movies would of certain things. Mm-hmm. Macaulay Culkin's character here is in a wheelchair. He can't use his legs from the hips down. Mm-hmm. In a lesser movie, that would be a huge plot point, and he'd be distraught over it, and oh, poor me. This kid does not think of himself that way. No other characters think of him in a pitiful way. Mm-hmm. He is treated...
Except maybe Hilary Faye.
She's just
obligated to take care of him, but...
Right. Which, she's not even. He doesn't ask her for that. That's one of the things I noticed. Okay. We completely skipped introducing the characters and everybody.
Okay, so yeah, we'll kind of go back. So, Saved is a movie from 2004. It was like a sleeper hit.
And a great time for Macaulay Culkin.
Came out of nowhere. Let me get my notes. So, it premiered at Sundance, and it was a pretty successful movie. It was filmed on a $5 million budget, and it made over $9 million at the box office. But this came out at a time, like, the cast in this movie, like, anyone that would go in and watch this movie would pretty much know who everybody is.
Oh, definitely.
For instance, this is probably my favorite thing that Mandy Moore has done.
Well, especially because now everything she does is so schmaltzy. And...
Yeah, but at the time, like, when Mandy Moore came out, she was this, like, extra sugary, like, pop star.
Saccharine.
Like, ultra good girl. Her music was horrible. But then I've always
That's a hot take.
No, it was horrible. She even says her music at that
No,
time
I
was
know,
horrible.
I know, but I'm just waiting. Someday this video is gonna come back up on the internet, and somebody's gonna be like, "I'm not gonna watch this."
No, she has come out apologizing to everyone who bought her first CD.
Right, and then there was there was the spectrum of those pop stars that all looked exactly the same, and like everybody would put like Willa Ford over here and Mandy Moore over here, and those were the two polars. Yeah,
but then Mandy Moore started getting into acting. Like her first big thing was A Walk to Remember, and she started like winning acting awards and stuff. Like not serious like MTV movie awards and stuff, but she started becoming known more as an actress. And then in this movie, she is Hilary Faye. She's like the mean girl of this movie. She's filled with Christ's love, but she so desperately wants to save anyone that, she deems as being a sinner.
Well, also, her deeming other people being a sinner is just like socially acceptable judgment. Mm-hmm. So if she sees something wrong with someone from her perspective, not from any actual like allow me to help, there's no what's the word I'm thinking of, altruistic intent. Mm-hmm. It's all I'm gonna help you so I look better.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got Mandy Moore. Other, it actors at the time, Jenna Malone, who's really like the light of this movie. She's Mary.
Fantastic in this movie.
Yeah, but Jenna Malone, for those of you who might not be able to think of her, like put a face to the name, she was the daughter in Stepmom, which coincidentally starred Susan Sarandon, whose daughter is in this movie. But Jenna Malone was also in Donnie Darko.
Oh, yeah.
The most recent thing I can think of is The Neon Demon.
Ooh, stay tuned for that.
She's been, in recent years, doing more
independent.
Independent stuff.
I love that picture.
But yeah, and Macaulay Culkin.
This is another golden era for Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah.
He had a couple of fantastic movies that came out at this time. Mm-hmm. Because when we started talking about doing this movie, I also brought up Party Monster.
Yeah.
And that might be a stay tuned on...
I've never seen it.
Yeah, that might be a scene again, stay tuned. Mm-hmm. And he did this and Party Monster back to back, and it just really shows that he wasn't just a child star. He is a genuinely good actor who is just picky about what he does.
Yeah. And so we mentioned Susan Sarandon's daughter, Ava Amiri. I think her first big thing was The Banger Sisters, which starred her mom and Goldie Hawn, who played these like groupies that reunite later in life. But I can't think of what else she's done recently, but she looks a lot like her mom. This is her right here. We've got Patrick Fuget. I think that's how you say his name.
Yes.
He was in Almost Famous.
He's awesome in Almost Famous.
He's been working pretty consistently over the years. He was in Gone Girl. Shudder just released a movie that he's in. I can't think of the title. It's something about a heart. My heart beats until you tell it not to. I don't remember, but it's like
we saw the trailer for that.
Yeah, I watched it a few weeks ago. It's not horrible. It's basically these three siblings. It's him and his sister, and their youngest brother is like a vampire, and it's about them like keeping him alive, and kind of a different take on the vampire story. Oh, I forgot about that.
If you've ever seen Almost Famous, like he got a lot of recognition for his role in that film.
That was like his first big thing.
But he is just as good in this. This is a young cast, but also a showcase cast, because every role is absolutely played to its peak level. I don't think you could play any of these roles off of each other any better with any other actor.
Yeah. And then you even mentioned at one point you would have liked to see like a spin-off of
Cassandra
Roland and Cassandra.
Like their story.
Yeah.
I wanted more of those two. Because they are genuinely good people who have been pushed to the fringe because they're not sticking to this morally rigid Christian ideology.
Well,
but
she's
also,
not even Christian.
She's Jewish.
She's just attending this school because she was kicked out of her previous school, and her only options were attending this Christian high school or being homeschooled, and she likes to rile people up, so she preferred to go to this school.
But it's just their relationship
is
it's so fun to watch on screen anytime they're on screen together. I wanted more of those two. And I know it's dumb, but I did want more of those two characters.
And then, of course, Heather Madarazzo plays Tia.
She was everywhere. She was a child star.
Very recognizable face. In the 90s, her first big thing was another out there independent movie called Welcome to the Dollhouse. That is a movie that... oh, hi, Nick.
Oh, hi. Thank you for joining us.
She... kind of came out of nowhere. That is a movie that I think I've only seen it once, but it has stuck with me. That is a movie that you don't forget.
Nope. I think I remember watching it when I was younger, and I don't think we don't need to revisit that.
She was in Scream 3.
Yes.
She played Randy's younger sister. She was in Hostel Part 2. She's the poor girl that gets hung upside down and... Yeah, she has a very recognizable face, but she always played those kind, like she was in The Princess Bride,
like she's the best friend in the Princess Bride movies.
Yes,
that's what I couldn't. I was like, I know her from something in particular, and I just couldn't put my finger on it.
Yeah. And then for the adults, we have Mary Louise Parker, who plays Mary's mom.
Who 99% of people would know from Weeds.
Yeah, which is
like
funny.
That was her big...
Because the director of this movie, Brian Danley, was a regular director on Weeds. So, and then Father Pat... Patrick's father, I gotta keep remembering, his real life name is Patrick, but his character's name was also Patrick, so not hard to remember. But Martin Donovan plays his dad, and he tries too hard to be hip, and it's pretty cringy at times, but it's funny.
Well, it's on purpose, and the funny part is the movie plays it perfectly. Like, in another movie, it would have been played to almost a cartoonish level. But in this one, you see the character thinking about how to try to connect with the kids before he says stuff. And when it comes out of his mouth, like, you kind of go, but you don't do it at the movie. You do it at the character, and that's the right way for it to be.
So, yeah, this is a pretty lighthearted, satirical movie. It's not overtly offensive. It kind of makes you feel good. There's some pretty kind of like sad, touching
There's some
parts
beautiful
of the
minutes.
Movie. I was laughing throughout. There are some pretty funny lines in this movie, like about how Patrick boards for the Lord because he's the skateboarder, and
the one you put up, the when she throws the Bible at her. What is it?
She's full of Christ's love.
I am full of Christ's love, and she hits somebody with a Bible. I laughed out loud.
And then Mary's like, this isn't a weapon.
That's... Okay, here's another thing about this movie. All right? There are so many lines, singular lines, that are talking to the audience inadvertently. so many, like, when a character's holding a Bible and had just got hit by it and has to tell another character that it's not a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
There are people this was written for that should be paying attention. Like, and this was written, you can tell this was written from a point of a person, the director.
Yes, so the director wrote the script like pretty much right after the Columbine massacre because it made him think back to his upbringing. He attended a Christian high school, and he actually said a lot of the things you see in this movie he did not have to make up. Like, he actually witnessed or experienced a lot of these events, and there's just a lot of subtle things. Like, if you pay attention to things in the background, like in the classrooms, you see like these creationism boards and stuff that are up.
There's a timeline. Okay, there's a
little
timeline.
Details like
there's
that.
a timeline of creation in the background of this one. I can't. And it starts. The entirety of creation starts on this timeline, 20,000 years ago. And like, you don't believe it looking at it, and then you look at it again and you go, oh my god, that's actually what it says. And it, like, there are some parts, like, what's the other, one of the things I do want to point out is that there's a lot of use of a slur for people with disabilities, with cognitive disabilities, and there's a lot of use of a slur for people in the LGBTQ community, but they are used in a way, they shouldn't be used by anybody, but they're shown in the film to be used, that it's offensive that people are saying
exactly. Like, it kind of shows them like they really are in this bubble and very naive, and they have a lot to learn about the world.
There's a scene at the end that you see characters way too young saying things to each other, having this moment with each other that grown adults would not be, grown adults that I know personally right now today would not be able to do themselves in real life. And I don't mean that as in it's unrealistic. I mean that as in I know so many people who would not be mature enough, like the scene where they're walking out of the prom and the Mercy House kids are walking in.
Yeah.
And she's walking with Patrick and he's walking with what's his name, Ethan.
Yeah.
And they introduce each other and all give each other hugs. Oh, is that mine? I cried a little bit. Because it really is a touching human. There are so many human moments in this that they get underneath the bullshit. Yeah,
you really get a lot of growth in these characters, especially with Mary, because when the movie starts, she is like,
she's just
in
like
that bubble.
Hillary.
Her and Hilary Faye are best friends, and then
the idea that that's a hyphenated name hurts my soul.
Hilary Faye is a great name for a character, especially a character like in this movie. It's just perfect. And Mandy Moore was really perfect in this movie too, because she could be really offensive, and then she would smile, and it's like the sweetest smile. Like, just her performance being able to show those both sides, like she just switches it on. Like, I've probably really met girls like that before, and
I have family like that.
Yeah, but yeah, Mary, she's experiencing a lot and like coming around, and it's kind of like you don't really know what things are like for people if you don't experience those kind of things yourself. So there is a lot of growth within these characters, and especially like Cassandra. She's initially portrayed as just like this rebel,
wild, crazy girl.
But then she does have this really caring side. She becomes a real friend to Mary.
A real friend to Mary, and she like, it's shown that she is legitimately attracted to and loves Roland, who's cast out by everyone else just because he's in a wheelchair.
Yeah, which there is this line of dialogue between him and Cassandra where he fell out of a tree when he was like 9 years old, and that's why he's paralyzed. And Hilary Faye, I guess, has always put it in his head, like, the miracle is that he survived that.
The miracle is that she found him.
Yes, but Cassandra's like, no, it would have been a miracle if you did not fall out of that tree. So, just, it's just so good, and I love the chemistry of everyone here.
There are some good jokes by Roland about Roland, though. Mm-hmm. He shows up, and it does kind of a thing that Juno totally ripped off now that I see it.
What year was Juno?
Oh, it was in the 2010s. It had to have been.
Yeah,
it was probably 2009, 2010.
This was 2004. I'm going to look
Oh,
this
it was
up
definitely...
really
I was
quick.
in high school when Juno came out. Anyway, so it rips off... Juno ripped something off from this movie, and it's that we see...
Oh yeah, Juno was 2007.
See, that's what I thought. We follow their lives over the course of holidays. The general big moments we see happen kind of surrounding holidays.
It is a full school year.
Well,
that
it's
we're
8
seeing.
months.
Yeah.
Because we haven't talked about the actual crux of the story yet. But there's 2 more things we need to talk about. Mm-hmm. One is the actual story, and 2 is the music in this movie, because both are really interesting.
So yeah, the opening and closing song, it is Mandy Moore performing God Only Knows, and actually Michael Stipe is on the song with her. Michael Stipe of REM. He was actually a producer on this movie.
Yeah. Do you ever see him in the movie?
Did I miss it?
Yeah. Back in the corner.
Shut up.
In the spotlight.
No, stop.
Everybody's losing their religion.
Oh
my God. I can't believe that worked. Oh, it worked out too well. Ooh. Okay.
I need to be saved.
That worked way too well. All right. So, which is funny because that song is about unconditional love.
I think
Completely
it's the
unconditional love.
Purest love song ever written. If
John
we're gonna
Lennon
go
called
there.
it the most beautiful love song he'd ever heard.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, when John Lennon's talking like that about your song, you should probably hang on to it. Which, in the beginning, it's used as, like, the word God is emphasized. Mm-hmm. At the end, the same cover, you hear the word knows is emphasized. And I feel like that's such a cool, tiny distinction. Mm-hmm. Because the one is giving the reason for the unconditional love to God. Whereas the one in the end gives the reason for the love. And it's a really good idea.
Yeah. I just really like, because Roland essentially is the one that outs his sister. There's these events that happen in the movie, and she's like the culprit behind it to purposely get some other students expelled, and he is the one that outs her, but then he feels bad about doing it in front of everyone because, I mean, at the end of the day, she's still his sister. Mm-hmm. So the fact that this movie shows, like, at the end she's having a breakdown and he's still going after her because he still cares, and so just...
Which is another reason the song works. Because it's not like she is the only one that doesn't realize she's full of hate. Mm-hmm. So, and everybody else wants to... Well, all the other main characters that we're following want to love each other in one form or another.
Yeah.
And the idea that at the end of the movie, she accepts them for actual real human love, mm-hmm. and not this, like, superficial love that only comes from the facade of it's not even really Christianity at a certain point. It's not something you'd see another movie do.
Yeah, because then you think about Patrick's character. His dad is the pastor in this movie, and he's
telling him off.
Yeah, he's still thinking for himself. He's still, the boyfriend character. I can't think of his name right now.
Oh my God. Dustin?
No.
Nope, I'm going to look it up. Don't worry.
So, Mary's boyfriend in the movie comes out, and basically the whole premise is she wants to save him, so they lose their virginity.
Well,
and
she wants to cure him
yes.
of being gay
yes.
by having sex with him.
And she becomes pregnant, but there's a scene where, because he gets sent off to this school to be cured, and Dean, yes. Dean gets sent off to this school to be cured, and Mary almost gets sent there too for being this young unwed mother. But there's a scene where she's with Patrick, and he's like, I really don't think Dean is sick. And it's just that thought that, like, even though he's growing up in this, like, very religious household, he's still seeing things for himself, and he's open to different
there's later in the movie when he tells off his dad for, oh, you and Mom haven't talked to each other in months, and everybody knows that
why didn't you divorce Mom when she wanted to? And the dad's like, well, divorce isn't part of God's plan, but ultimately he's been seeing Mary's mom. They've been spending time together.
Right, they're avoiding the fact that they're going on dates. They're saying, they're meeting for religious reasons, but these two are going on dates.
Yeah.
But there's a thing surrounding that conversation where they have this conversation about why didn't you divorce Mommy, and then when they're panning out of the conversation, they go past that family picture. Did you guys see the face Tara made when I made those jokes earlier? That's the face that the mom had in this family picture. She's like,
really awkward, like, family photo.
It's really some of the, like, the humor in this. There's big,
like that. The Halloween scene, and so Roland's in a wheelchair, and Cassandra's like, oh, what are you dressed as?
Because he's got these ties.
He's like, I'm a roller skate. Because he's in a wheelchair, and so he's wearing a shirt that has, like, strings, and he's a roller skate.
It's funny.
There's some really clever
We'll
stuff.
dance for
Yes.
change. Okay, so he's holding a sign that says, we'll dance for change.
We'll dance for food.
We'll dance for food.
Yeah.
And he's got a little cup. And then so you see somebody walk past, and he holds on to the sides of the wheelchair and goes like this.
Or when Mary is, like, talking to Cassandra, and she's like, doesn't it bother you? And Cassandra's like, what? And Mary's like, he can't walk. And she's like, he can't walk?
the comedy, the actual comedy in this movie is excellent.
Yeah, I still found this movie to be enjoyable after not having seen it for years. It's still held up for
I believe
me.
we would both highly recommend, if you can find this, if you see it on a streaming platform, if you see it in a bargain bin for DVD, seriously, we recommend. Experience this film, because it holds up, definitely. I wouldn't even want this, I would want this to be remastered and not remade. If they remastered this and put it out on 4K, I'd buy it.
I know, I want to see audio commentaries, I want to see them bring the cast back for interviews.
Oh my
God. It just seemed like everyone also enjoyed making the movie.
Can you imagine Macaulay Culkin and what's her name, Eva Marie? They have this chemistry where it feels like two teenagers that really are into each other. But, like, I'd love to hear Macaulay Culkin talk about making this. I'm a fan of his. I've always been a fan of his, even when people were talking really bad about him.
Rooted for him.
Yeah. Even when people were talking really bad about him and he didn't look great, I felt in my heart that I wanted him to do well.
He was a big part of our childhoods. Like, people of our generation, like the Home Alone movies, like, he is someone that you've always rooted for. And
I feel like he grew up with, like, we grew up with him through those hard times. When he was having the hard times, so were we, you know? So, we have a lot. Mac, if you ever see this, please, I'd love to talk to you. I really, like, I'm a huge fan, and I respect your craft, and I don't think people look at you as the actor that you are. So, please, I'd like to talk to you about your actual process.
Yeah, that family has some
all of them,
like, talented,
and there's like 100 of them.
I don't know about that.
There's a few siblings, and they're all great. Kieran too. I don't care what anybody says about him.
Well, Kieran is doing pretty well for
He's
himself
doing
right now.
Succession? Yeah. We haven't seen... Is that on Apple Plus? Or
I think so.
See, we're not doing Apple Plus.
I have no idea. And then Macaulay is doing well now, too. He's married to Brenda Song.
Yeah, former Disney star.
Yeah, they just had a kid, like, last year. Yeah, because we started seeing him. He started showing up on, like, Red Letter Media and the Video Game Nerd.
Yep.
Like, just hanging out with these people. Just
YouTubers.
So down to earth and knows a lot about movies. He just seems like he'd be cool to hang out with. He
was on a Best of the Worst on Red Letter Media. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to Red Letter Media. Those guys are... well, one of those guys is just as knowledgeable as us. The other couple are kind of goofy.
And a few years ago, he had a tribute band to the Velvet Underground called the Pizza Underground.
Which actually, like, you know, he seems like a person who would totally dig that Andy Warhol scene, too. All right. So that's Saved from 2004 by Brian
Danley.
Earlier, she was on Wikipedia, and I was like, "Why are you looking up Brian Dennehy?" Nope, different person.
But yeah, I wish they would like remaster this movie, and I'm not sure. I didn't check the DVD if there are any like special features, but
there are special features. I just don't know what they are.
It would be cool to like have the cast come back and talk about making the movie and stuff, because this movie did kind of come out of nowhere and was a hit.
Yep.
But
so we're going to move on to our next segment, which is actually kind of a first for us, and it's going to be kind of fun to talk about because, woo, if this wasn't a wild ride of figuring out what the hell was going on. Oh no.
Once we resize.
Shh. Nobody can see it.
We can edit this part out.
No, this is the point of being live. Screw it, we'll do it live. There, I did it.
Yay.
Yeah. We're professionals. We originally had wanted to do the music video for Melissa Etheridge's Come to My Window, which, in my opinion is slowly changing, but in my opinion, she's an underrated guitar player, an underrated singer. Her early songwriting was absolutely fantastic. Her first 2 albums were great. And then you catch Juliette Lewis at that point in her career, who is known as this method actor who stayed in character for months and months and months. And she would go there. If you needed an actress to take it to that place where no other actress would take it, you got Juliette Lewis. And she had a string of hit movies at this time. And she was considered like a future it girl. And so you got this beautiful piece of artwork. Now let's talk about, before we talk about the actual video, we're going to talk about why we couldn't watch it.
Yeah, so This is a very well-known song, and it was a very popular video. Like, I remember seeing this video all the time, and then each week I start, looking for the images that we're going to use, and I noticed pretty immediately I could not find many images from this video, like many clear images. Like, there's a lot of, like, blurry stuff from the music video, and I was like, oh, that's really weird, because this was a pretty popular music video back in the day, and we tried to watch the video today. There's only one version of the video on YouTube,
and it's ripped from Yahoo.
Yes. So, and there's parts where it's like pixelated with these pink boxes, and you can't tell what's happening, and
it looks like it's ripped to the internet from a VHS tape.
Yeah, like, it's really bad quality. The sound is good, you just can't really see much of the video. And then Matt found out that Melissa Etheridge has her own website, and you can pay $10 to, like, stream her music videos and stuff, but you can't.
You can pay $10 to listen to her music, and
yes,
because you also technically can only find certain albums of hers that she does not own the masters to on things like Spotify and Tidal and streaming services. So she literally has pulled all of her music off of streaming platforms, and you can only stream them on her own personal website. Lars, like, it's the most selfish, money-grabbing... I'm sorry. It is. And it's our job to kind of be honest about these things. It's a money grab. It's being completely selfish with that art. When you make something and you put it out, I understand it's yours, you own it, and you want to... The monetizing it allows you to do more. But putting it out there and then monetizing it to the point where people don't want to experience it is the opposite of art. That's underhanded greed. And it kind of pisses me off, because I've always been somebody who, let's talk about underrated guitar players. I bring her up every time. Underrated songwriters. I bring her up every time. And now I will not, because I feel like that this is such a slap in the face to people who like her art. It really does piss me off.
But yeah, so...
Was that a little too much? Was that too much?
Fine. The song Come to My Window is from Melissa Etheridge's 1993 album called Yes, I Am.
Oh, such a good
which,
album.
At the time, many people alluded Yes, I Am to her sexuality, because she also publicly came out in 1993, but she has since said that no, the title doesn't have anything to do with it.
It's more of a self-actualization, which at the time, publicly coming out as a lesbian was a thing that was, because you had Ellen DeGeneres on her sitcom, you had Katie Lang, you had Melissa Etheridge, all these things kind of happened around the same time. So it was only news in the sense of if somebody had a problem with it, but there were so many people that actually were like, okay, cool.
Yeah, so this song became a big hit after she came out. It is certified gold in the U.S. It reached number 25 on the Billboard charts. The highest charting was at number 4 on the U.S. Adult Contemporary. She received her second Grammy for this song. Her first Grammy was for a song from her second album. But she did receive her second Grammy for this, for Best Female
which makes me wonder,
rock vocal performance, which is like, yeah, like, this song still, this is an amazing song. And it's funny to think, too, because she almost left this song off her album. She thought it was too simple. And
it was too simple.
Yeah.
Read the lyrics to the song and tell me they're simple.
That's another thing, too. The lyrics in this song are so romantic. Like,
beautiful.
I would dial the numbers just to listen to your breath. and I would stand inside my hell and hold the hand of death. Can you imagine somebody feeling that way about you? Like, that's... I'm not saying anything, but that is so romantic. And
it's beautiful. And which, like, between this and I'm the Only One, like...
Oh, that's another good song.
Yeah! Like, it's the same style of, like... hard romanticism.
The energy of those songs and her performances are amazing.
The guitar play, I feel like these are two of the most underrated guitar performances also.
Yeah, but this song, I believe she was the first artist to have a song stay on the Hot 100 for more than 44 weeks. It became an anthem at the time because the lyrics allude to her sexuality and her activism, like I don't care what they say, things like that.
I don't care what they think is the next line too.
What do they know about this love anyway? This song really became an anthem, and it was huge, especially on radio, mostly through people calling in wanting to listen to it.
I specifically remember being in my mom's car, and she had this cassette tape on a constant loop. Like I actually probably know all the words to all the songs on this album because I remember my mom like playing it constantly. And it's great.
Yeah, and the song was mastered by Bob Ludwig, who has worked with 1,300 artists, and he has like over 3,000 credits to his name. That's insane. With like Led Zeppelin, Lou Reed, Queen, Jimi Hendrix, Nirvana, Bruce Springsteen, Daft Punk, and then another artist featured on this song, Waddy Wachtel. I'm not sure if I'm speaking his name right, but
if that's incorrect, we apologize.
Yeah. Waddy. I've always known who he is, most notably because of his work with Stevie Nicks. I gotta
go check on him. I don't know what he's doing.
Okay.
So go ahead, keep going.
But yeah, he is an artist known for his guitar work. He works a lot with Stevie Nicks on her records and like performs live with her. I don't remember when they started working together, but I believe she's been working with him since her debut album Belladonna, because I've always recognized his name from her work. But he's worked with like Linda Ronstadt, Randy Newman, the Rolling Stones, James Taylor, Iggy Pop, Jackson Browne. So yeah, and I don't know what's happening right now. I'll just wait to keep talking until he comes back.
Sorry, Dyson was getting into stuff.
Oh.
I got him. He's laying on.
But yeah, not only was the song popular, but the music video as well. Like, I remember seeing the music video all the time, and even
I remember
years after it came out, like seeing it on pop-up video.
Well, I remember seeing it when it came out, and being as young as I was, Juliette Lewis affecting me.
Yeah, so by this point in her career, I think everyone knows who Juliette Lewis is. She's a very recognizable person. Like, she was the daughter in Christmas Vacation. By this point, she had already been in the Cape Fear remake, and she was nominated for an Academy Award.
We also had The Other Sister.
That was after.
But
so she did this music video, and I believe at this time she was dating Brad Pitt, or I think they broke up this year, but...
Do we already have Natural Born Killers at this point?
She did. I was just getting to that.
Sorry.
So, Brad Pitt was friends with Melissa Etheridge. I think early on, like, in his career, she let him crash at her house, so I think, like, she became friends with Juliette Lewis through him, and I remember too, like when Melissa Etheridge had a surrogate for her children, and there was like a rumor that the dad was Brad Pitt, and then it ended up being David Crosby. But yeah, so I mean, think they
we all make choices, I guess.
Yeah, they probably met through Brad Pitt, and then she is in this video as a patient at a facility who is having like a nervous breakdown, and she's...
Which actually, I have an interpretation of this video.
Okay. Well, so this music video was directed by Samuel Bayer, who had a very prolific music video career. Like, he directed the Smells Like Teen Spirit video, the Smashing Pumpkins Bullet with Butterfly Wings video, Blind Melon's No Rain video. Hold on, I have a list of a few more.
That's a stay tuned on Themes to be Heard.
The Cranberries Zombie video.
Ooh, that one's pretty.
Candlebox. Does anyone remember Candlebox?
I remember Candlebox.
They had a song called You, and he directed that video. Unfortunately, when I think of Samuel Bayer now, I think of the abysmal Nightmare on Elm Street remake, because he was the one who directed that.
Really?
Yes, unfortunately.
Took old Jackie Hurl to Nightmare Town, huh?
Yeah. So the film is shot in black and white, and like Juliette Lewis, she's speaking. There's parts of the video where the music stops and it's just her speaking lines, like the lyrics. Like the video opens with her speaking the opening lines of the song, and she's like drawing on the walls and the floors, and there are scenes where it's like these big blown up children's drawings, which were actually drawn by a crew member's 5-year-old daughter, and they were gonna have her, like, the little girl cameo in the video to kind of represent that lost childhood for Juliette Lewis, and they filmed it, but they lost the footage of that. But
also the poses and things that Juliette's doing behind this blown up
yeah.
Like, she's doing these very childlike, almost like free creation, interpretive dance poses that are stark.
But this video always stood out because it's like this woman having this breakdown, and in fact, it was so real on the set. Samuel Bayer would keep like stopping filming and yelling cut because he thought that she was really having a nervous breakdown, and he was getting really scared, so he would like keep like stopping the filming, but she was just like acting. And this video was made a year before Natural Born Killers, so yeah, just a very effective, very simple, very effective music video that is very hard to find unless you pay $10 to
a month
subscribe to Melissa Etheridge's
so if you just want to listen to
website.
Melissa Etheridge, $10 a month. MelissaEtheridge.com. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, I mean, you can. There is that one version that's on YouTube that is really horrible quality, but you can get like glimpses of what's happening.
There are other videos of hers that have been ripped more successfully and put up.
Yeah.
There's also live performances, which I'd like to see live performances from that time from her.
Yeah.
That might be something I might kind of go back over and rehash, because she was so good. I mean, she's kind of all about herself now, but I'd like to see that. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's the saddest themes to be heard. Like, I feel so bad doing that, but
it's so funny because when we first came up with these additional segments, this was the first music video we talked about doing for Themes to be Heard, and then we're starting. I had done my research like earlier in the week, but we always sit down like on Sundays to refresh. and we sit down to like watch this music video.
And I looked at the
it's like,
title of it.
How are we gonna do this?
I looked at the title of it and I went, that might not be right. And we start watching it and she's looking at her notebook and I stopped it and she was like, what? And I was like, this isn't okay. I was like, this video doesn't work. And she was like, what do you mean it doesn't work? And I started it over and she went, what? And it even has like a Yahoo logo in the corner.
I thought like we could at least find it on like Vivo or something like that, but no.
But it is our job to be honest about things like this and actually talk about how the art, like the art in its full, and I guess that's part of it. Sucks, but it is.
Yeah.
Now, how much time have we got left? Ooh, we still got more than 45
It's only
minutes.
9 o'clock. That is something else we forgot to mention tonight. If you if you noticed, we started at 8 p.m.
From now on, we'll be starting at 8 p.m.
We used to go live at 9 p.m. and then by the time we would finish, it would be like 11, and Matt has to get up at like 4 a.m. for work, and then I would start doing some of the like editing, like clipping the little clip videos and stuff like that, and I would be up like really late, so we were like, let's just start a little bit earlier with the episodes.
Yeah, we decided to start earlier, end earlier. Oh no. Where'd it go? Okay, sorry, I'm working on... I'm also kind of doing... I don't know if you noticed, but I also kind of do production while we're... This is our main producer now, though. I don't know if you've seen how cool our stream is. I kind of want to just, like, switch to another screen just to show you how cool it is. But she's done a lot of work on our personal streams. So I'm at The Klausy. She's at Subterranean on Twitch. She's just done such a great job. So I feel like I should do something at some point. I don't really do much for the show anymore.
I wanted to do more this week. Like, this weekend just did not go with the carbon monoxide episode.
And your car
last
breaking
night.
down.
Oh yeah, my car. It's been super cold in Michigan, and it didn't occur to me to go out and start my car, so we had to jump my car yesterday. But I woke up today and I was like, oh, tonight's episode's gonna be a bit of a mess because I didn't do
freezing in here.
I didn't do like as much like promoting stuff as I wanted to. Because we were out in our cars until like 5:30 a.m.
Didn't get to bed
this morning,
like
waiting for them to clear, like for safety that we could come back inside. He went out for a little bit and I could not stay awake today. Like, I was just sitting on the couch and I was so exhausted and couldn't stay awake. So, it just feels kind of like a bit of a mess today.
Which is it's especially hard because I've been looking forward to doing a deep analysis of this movie before we had this show. I've been begging her to do this movie since the original version of the show where we had nothing. I adore this film. If you watch for the next 4 weeks, you will see me cry up to 16 times. I can't watch 10 minutes of this movie at a time without tears coming to my eyes. It is an absolute masterpiece.
This movie also kind of has a special...
It's the first movie we watched together.
Yeah, the first time we ever, like, hung out, he showed me this movie. So. Which,
by the way, not a date movie? Don't do what I did.
Yeah. Because this is, I'm not going to lie, this is a sad movie. And we were, like, hanging out the first time, and there's a particular scene that happened, and I was like... Nuh-uh, that did not just happen. I, like, started, like, crying.
But one thing I feel like it did do, because we had talked about movies, and her knowledge, even back then when we very first met, was a little intimidating. So I was like, I gotta prove I know something. Because like I was like I know how it works too. I know film too. And I was like all right, I'm gonna show her this. It's like I was like, this is one of my favorite movies, and I feel like it's an absolute masterpiece. And I could tell she was like, what is it? I said it's a boxing movie, and I could tell she kind of went, and then which now it's especially funny because she probably knows more about professional fighting than most grown men. I'm so proud of how my friends and I are all big fans of mixed martial arts, of not just the UFC, but we also watch Bellator and regional things. And she will like sit at a restaurant or something. We went over to a friend's house once to watch just a card on ESPN, and he was like, "Oh, I really like this one guy," and she was like, "Yeah, but if the other guy gets down to the ground, he's got great elbows." And I watched my grown 40-year-old man friend go, "What?" Like it was. I was proud. But the movie that we're talking about is 2015's Southpaw, directed by consummate director on the show, Antoine Fuqua.
Yeah, we just talked about one of his movies on a previous episode from this season.
The Replacement Killers.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And this is probably this is definitely my favorite movie of his because it's one of my favorite movies ever.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I know a lot of people that would be like, "But Training Day, bro." And have you actually watched Southpaw though? Because I feel like Training Day, which actually there's something said in this movie that makes me feel like it's something Antoine Fuqua really thought, and it's something that we're going to talk about in a minute. But it's there's a line in this movie: 2 for the Bills, 1 for the belt. So I feel like he would make movies that weren't necessarily of his artistic vision, but to make some money so that he could make the movie he wanted to make eventually.
So, yeah, the history behind this movie is pretty interesting. So, if I had to ask you, who would you say is your favorite rapper? Or who do you consider to be one of the greatest rappers ever?
If we're not talking about Eminem is definitely in the conversation for top 3 of all time.
All right, so Eminem. So, of course, everyone hopefully knows about 8 Mile, which was his film debut, Academy Award winning song. The notable line, Mom's Spaghetti, which is now a restaurant in Detroit.
Which is getting fantastic reviews, actually.
But Southpaw was...
Oh, that's a good picture. I like that a lot.
So there we go. We've got Eminem with Jake Gyllenhaal. And the reason I mentioned Eminem is this project was initially written with him in mind.
Is this the right directory? You didn't put any... Oh, the spoiler pictures are in here.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. But I lost track of thought. Thank you.
Originally Eminem.
Yeah, I still lost it. But because of the success of 8 Mile, the screenwriter was inspired by his relationship with his daughter Haley. So he was approached with this project, about this boxer who has this strong relationship with his daughter, and initially Eminem was like all about it. He wanted to join because of his own relationship with his daughter and being able to like portray that on the screen, because the script was inspired by his personal struggles. And like DreamWorks was attached to like put the movie out and everything, but then Eminem decided to drop from the project just to focus solely on music, and then the studios pulled out, but the director was still interested in making a movie about this story, so then Jake Gyllenhaal was approached and brought on, and he did a lot of reading on boxing and like the spirit of gyms in America. He read a lot about orphans and the foster care system in America. He did about like 5 months of boxing training, and then Eminem saw the movie and he thought that Jake Gyllenhaal smashed it. So it was kind of like a win-win for everyone in the end, because Eminem still he produced the soundtrack. Also, the film was composed by James Horner. This was his final film score. James Horner was a legendary composer. Like, if you think of Titanic, he was the one that did the music for that, and sadly, he was killed in a plane crash. But he and Antoine Fuqua they collaborated, like, he also did the music for The Magnificent Seven. There were like 2 other movies that came out after he died, but this was like his final movie that he worked on.
Also, like, Gyllenhaal did do like the physical training for this, and you can tell because he is jacked. He is out of control jacked in this movie.
Yeah.
Which actually, he does a body transformation over the course of the film, and we're going to talk about that eventually. But in the beginning of this movie, he is huge.
I had never seen him in anything like this before. Like, Jake Gyllenhaal, I still remember when he broke out. Like, this is so different from Bubble Boy and
Donnie
Darko, which will always have a special place in my heart.
I just realized that we did Saved with Jenna Malone
Yeah.
and this.
Yeah.
Let's just go through the whole Donnie Darko
I
cast.
feel like we should do Donnie Darko on a future episode, like, because I haven't seen it in years.
Do you want to do like main show Donnie Darko or just scene again?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Main show, we might get really deep into that.
That would take 6 weeks.
If we just do like a short retrospective on how it holds up for us, but that movie affected my life in many ways, like the soundtrack and stuff. It kind of introduced me to all this old new wave music that I had not been familiar with, and the story, like that, I don't know, I remember. It was another one of those, and I tell you about these all the time. I would get home from whatever, and my mom would be watching this movie, and I would just sit down, because my mom, fantastic taste in film. She's always had great taste in film. My mom's the one who introduced me to the Boondock Saints, by the way. So, like, I'll sit down and just start watching a movie with her, and it'll be halfway through, and she'll be like, all right, I'm going to bed or something, or I gotta go. And I'm like, I'm just going to start this over. And she'll be like, okay. And this was one of the ones where I came in about halfway through, and I sat down, and I was just mesmerized by Donnie Darko, and I started it over. And by the time it ended, like, there's no real emotional cap to that movie, but I was touched. Like, I really felt like something was different with watching Donnie Darko. I was sobbing at the end of that movie. Just the fact that you have this character who is, like, aware of everything, and then that end scene where he's in his bed laughing, knowing that this part of the plane is about, like, I thought that was so depressing. Like, he knows what's coming. He knows he's about to be killed and change the course of all these other people's lives around him, like, because he feels that he's affected them negatively. Like, that, oh my gosh. I was sobbing the first time I saw that. It's a hard one.
And it really showed us early on how absolutely talented Jake Gyllenhaal is.
Yeah.
And he shows it again. This is not anything. If you've watched other Jake Gyllenhaal movies and then you watch Southpaw, it is a completely separate performance from anything else he's ever done. But it is so in-depth. And I personally am going to get in-depth on his performance because the nuances are so small that the reason it's emotional is because you subconsciously pick up all these little things that he does. It's a lot like past episode Drive.
Yeah. He's someone that I respect as an actor because he's done so many different like kinds of roles, and he's just had an interesting career. Nowadays there's a lot of people hating on him because of Taylor Swift, but
Whatever.
that's somewhere that we won't go. But he's had a very interesting career. There's still that movie on Netflix
The
we want to
Guilty.
watch.
Also directed by Antoine Fuqua and starring Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, but this movie, I had never seen him do anything like this before. Just the physical work, even the way he speaks,
The character,
and
the
his
different ways.
mannerisms,
Yeah.
So.
And then the way he speaks and his face are things that I'll go into.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get our opening credits, which I think this was the first time I ever saw the production credit for Fuqua Films.
Mm-hmm.
I think this might have been the start of my noticing and realizing that he had made so many of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
And we get the song Beast, which is a collaboration song between Busta Rhymes, King Cross, and Tech Nine. But it's a remix of a heavy metal song. So the chorus is from a hard rock song, but all the verses are done by what would be called speed rappers.
What is the hard rock song?
Beast. It's called Beast. This is a remix.
But what song is it that it samples?
What?
The hard rock song is called Beast?
Yes.
Okay.
And then this is a remix of the hard rock song where they took out the actual vocals.
Who was the band?
You know? That's a fantastic question. It's Rob Bailey and the Hustle Standard. But I listen to this song a lot. I like this song. I actually, one of the things I want to point out about this soundtrack is that it's curated by Eminem. It features a lot of Eminem songs. And I feel like it came out at a time where he hadn't put an album out in a long time. And then the album that did come out was not very well received. So I feel like this should be called the Lost Great Eminem album. Because all the songs he has on it are emotional. They are impactful, lyrically good. Between this and... what was his last album? Or not Songs to Murder People By, but the one before that in 2018 that people were like, whoa, he didn't even do any promotion, and then it was amazing.
Oh.
God.
Was it like Kamikaze or something?
Kamikaze,
Yeah.
yes, thank you. And between this soundtrack and Kamikaze, I feel like a lot of people had a hard time with his music. And and nobody knows about this because this movie didn't get quite the push that it should have.
Yeah, so it was unfortunately released by the Weinstein Company, but like it made its budget back. It made a total of $94 million on a $30 million budget, but yeah, the opening weekend, I'm not sure what else came out around the time, but opening weekend, yeah, it came in like 5th place.
But, which is crazy because, would you say 34 million?
$30 million budget.
That's a small budget. Like, comparatively to other films of the same ilk,
yeah.
That's not a big budget.
Well, it's funny to think, too, because on a previous episode when we were talking about the Replacement Killers, like, we talked about how, like, Antoine Fuqua making that movie kind of made him leery about studio productions and stuff, so... Which
I believe is why he would do movies for big money, so that he could kind of pass off so that he could... Which, you can see it if you look over the course of his filmography. All right, money film, this is the movie he wanted to make, kind of thing. And we have this really cool song, and we don't even have video yet. It's still the opening credits. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it opens to his trainer taping his hands.
Mm-hmm.
And he has his headphones on. What we were hearing is actually diegetic. Sorry, Joe Bob. He has Bluetooth headphones on and he's listening to that song while he's getting his hands taped before a fight. There is so much to unpack in this first, 30 seconds of film. All right, so he's getting his hands taped by his trainer. The commissioner is watching, and we see his friends. Now, his friends have his belts over their shoulder, and you kind of see trash on the counter. They're kind of not paying attention. They're on their phone. They're laughing. They're joking. He's trying to concentrate, and it all seems a little disorganized.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it should be about him, but it's not.
Yeah.
Which it all comes back around. Future episodes. If you stay tuned, if you want to know what I'm talking about. But where was I? Okay. We see all that, and then Mo shows up. Now, when Mo walks through that door,
Maureen, his wife.
Her name's Maureen.
Yeah.
But everybody just that's the shortened version.
Played by Rachel Mcadams,
Which,
by the way.
again, talk about departure roles. This is not something you will see Rachel McAdams do in any other movie. This is a totally... most people would know her from things like The Notebook. And what was the other one? The Time Traveler's Wife?
Yeah.
If you ever see Rachel McAdams on the cover of a film, it's always two white people not yet kissing.
Or Mean Girls.
I mean, she was Regina George.
Yeah.
I'm a Mean Girls fan.
Or, if you want to go back to,
oh no.
that Rob Schneider movie, what was it, The Hot Chick?
Was she the hot chick?
Yeah, she was, the girl that he,
Switches
Jessica? Was her
Is she
name?
the one that switches places with?
Yes. That was, the first
That's
thing.
funny.
I saw that movie in the theaters, and, yeah, it was her, and Anna Faris was her best friend.
See, I thought Anna Faris was the one who got switched.
No, but I felt like Anna Faris stole that movie, though. I felt she was very charismatic. That was one of the first things that I saw her in, but she kind of stole that movie, in my opinion. But yeah, the hot chick.
Anna Faris is always fantastic.
Yeah.
So this is another departure, because not very often do you see Rachel McAdams doing an accent. You don't see her doing kind of a tough chick. You don't see her doing, you know what I mean? She's one of the strongest characters in the film. And when she walks through the door, you watch all these guys who are laughing and joking and not really there for Billy.
Yeah.
Leave. Oh, by the way, Jake Gyllenhaal's character in this movie, his name is Billy Hope. We're going to stop for a moment, because that name in and of itself has so many layers to it. The name Hope, obviously, alludes to the word hope. But in boxing, there was always this thought of the Great White Hope, the last great white boxer, because it was co-opted. The idea of Great White was used as a metaphor for the shark, right? But also co-opted by racists as, well, there has to be one white boxer who can still compete in a sport that's now mostly people of color. But also was switched back around and taken back by trainers of trainers from black trainers, Mexican trainers, who were training white fighters. So now it went from a term taken by racists to a term used by trainers of color. So there are so many layers to the word hope, and the idea that his last name is Billy Hope. It would have been really easy to have made his ring name great. But actually, I don't think we do get a ring name for him.
I don't remember being said.
I've watched this movie 100 times. I don't think he has a
Yeah.
ring name, which we get a ring name for almost everybody else in the movie, or every other fighter at least.
Yeah.
So we get this really intense moment between Billy and Maureen before the fight. He's wrapped up. She throws his she takes his headphones off and tosses them, which kind of shows the dynamic between them. And she gets right in she's holding his face, and they make this eye contact. Now when they do this, the shot is over her shoulder at his face, and it shows he has a severely bent nose bridge, and he has scar tissue on his lip, and he's doing this thing with his eye where it's like a loose eyelid. And also, one of the things that I learned, Jake Gyllenhaal practiced moving one eye independently to show that Billy has a perforated cornea. I'm not going to cry yet. They make this eye contact, and she says, "You're ready. You're ready." But she also says, "Just don't get hit too much." And we cut directly to his face, just destroyed. Like, he has cuts over both eyes. He has cuts on both cheeks. He's bleeding out of his mouth. And the cool part of the shot is it fades out of blur, and he screams, and we see his bloody face and the word hope on his mouth guard.
Yeah.
The duality of that shot is amazing. A lot of story. One of the things about this movie is that story is told through the fight scenes. We get a lot of people's personality in the way they actually box. You don't have to know anything about Jordan Jones. We don't actually learn much about the Jordan Jones character that he's boxing in this scene. But we know a lot about him as a person through the way he boxes. So, and we also learn a lot of the story through ring announcers. Joe Tessitore and Roy Jones Jr. are the actual ring announcers in this film, and they actually tell a lot of story through the way they talk about the people in the ring.
Yeah, like we find out that both Billy and Maureen grew up in the Hell's Kitchen orphanage.
And it's where they met each other. So they've known each other since childhood.
Yeah.
And came up hard together. So we see Jordan Jones, who he's fighting, and he's very fast. We see him using a lot of head movement. He's throwing a lot of jabs. And there's a lot of times where we see Billy in this fight just eating jabs. We see him just taking them. And every time you see him, like you'll see him take a punch and then like really buck up after every punch. And he is throwing hard, ugly hooks and not hitting anything particularly. There is a moment in this fight, though, where we see him throw 2 jabs back to back, and they both land. Comes back in the movie later. So you might have to wait until week 4 of this breakdown to find out why that's important.
So in the meantime, explain to us, what is a southpaw?
I'm a southpaw. A boxer who stands with his right hand in the front. So your power hand is your left hand, which means that paw comes from the south. It's actually started by Italian boxing coaches in the 1920s because North and South were always considered, like, left hand was considered incorrect. So down, south. You don't necessarily have to be left-handed to box that way, because I'm not. I'm right-handed.
Yeah, I was going to point that out.
I'm right-handed. And actually, in the movie, Billy Hope is right-handed and boxes what's called orthodox, which would be with his right hand back for a majority of the film. Southpaw also being something that he's not. So we'll hold on to what I just said until it comes back into being something important to the film, because I don't want to give the whole goose away in the first week, even though I could do all this in one night. We'd just be here for a while. He's getting pretty beat up, and we see the end of a round where he ties up. He's getting beat up pretty bad. He's got his back on the ropes. The Jordan Jones character is just laying into him, and he there's a thing called clinching in boxing. If you're not familiar with it, it's where you wrap your arms around your opponent, hold him close in the hopes that the referee will separate you, and it also prevents them from having the space to punch you. So he wraps him up, he holds him tight, and we see that he is extremely emotional. He's laughing almost hysterically. He's yelling, "Oh, that all you got? Is that all you got? I could take more of that." And then once they get separated is the end of the round. We actually see both corners, and in the Jordan Jones corner, his corner's telling him, he's giving him good advice. You're going to move. You're not going to stand in front of him. It's like the bull and the matador, which is actually an old Teddy Atlas saying that the stronger fighter is a bull and the faster fighter is a matador, and whoever plays their role better is the one that wins. We go to the Billy Hope corner, and we get very unhelpful, very self-centered advice from the corner. Look, you're better than this guy. Just go out there and beat him. He's not giving any constructive criticism, really.
Yeah, and whereas Maureen seems to know more, she's like, watch out for the jabs, and she's
get your back off the ropes.
Trying to get his attention because his corner is not being very helpful, and she's...
My favorite part of this moment, though, is that she knows that really Billy could end this anytime he wanted to.
Yeah.
Because what we get from her is, "Hey, Billy, what are you doing?" And he kind of nods like, "All right, I know that I gotta end it now." And he does. He goes out there. We see him much more aggressive than we see him in the first round that we see. He's kind of chasing him down. He's hunting him. He's using decent footwork, not great footwork. Actually, if you're a boxing fan and you watch this movie, you watch the first fight, you go, "God, his footwork is awful." And because he's just following him. And a boxer like the opponent he has in this fight would probably just back up and jab him like we see for most of the time from Jones. But he catches up to him and he starts wailing. And it's just haymaker, hooks. There's no skill. He's an animal. And he knocks him down. Now, here's one of the moments where we get a piece of information about Billy from his boxing that isn't explained, but you understand it because of what you see, even if you know nothing about boxing. So the referee lets Jones get back up, he checks his hands, and generally what happens is a referee goes, "Okay, fight." And he turns sideways, and as he's turning sideways, Billy is running past the referee already, and just, like, it's almost a Superman punch. He almost comes off his feet. And as the referee gets out of the way, Billy's coming past him and just lays Jones out. And so it's a little dirty. You're almost like...
Yeah, so that's allowed?
As soon as the ref says go, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Once the ref's out of the way, you're fighting. And Jones didn't have his hands up yet, so it's completely legal, even though it may not be completely right.
Yeah.
Which gives us that character information on Billy Hope. We get back to the dressing room after the fight, and... It's tough. He's bleeding.
So, yeah, there's a lot of white towels. They're full of blood. He's bleeding from his mouth.
He's not speaking very well at all. He's slurring his speech. Hold on. Let me find where this... where I had... Because one of the things we missed during the fight is we see the character Miguel Escobar. Miguel Magic Escobar is watching the fight, who he becomes our antagonist eventually.
Yes, and he is actually played by Miguel Gomez, who was the first artist signed to Jay-Z's Rock La Familia label.
It's a reggaeton label.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a reggaeton
rapper.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where are we? Hold on.
The
Okay.
room
So
after.
in the dressing room, after the fight, we get this really cool. We get the fight ending announcement, and there's a couple things that we see that eventually do come back later on. His manager, played by 50 Cent, Curtis Jackson, is holding the belt, and we see him grab it and kind of playfully pull it away, which is something later on. Again, we get that switch. All his friends are in front of the belt. They're like taking pictures with him with the belt. He is celebrating. He's over celebrating. He's jumping around. He's getting in the cameras. This is all very important things that come back. Now, when we get back to the dressing room, like we said, he's bleeding profusely. The doctor says that they might have to do surgery on that eye. His one eye, we can see just broken blood vessels. There's no white to his eye anymore. He tells Maureen that he's bleeding out of it. Like he goes, I don't know where that's coming from, and we see blood just fall out of his mouth. He can't even take off his own socks. He just showers in his socks because his hands are swollen. This is the most realistic. Boxing movies have this veil of glamour over before and after a fight, and it's not. It's brutal, and it's for a boxer. It's what makes you feel good. These are the moments. Look, I won. This is only part of the process, but for everybody around a boxer, it's torture, and that's shown here because he gets up. He ends up showering in his socks because he doesn't want to make his wife take off his socks because he can't himself. And she starts like moving the towels, and they're just soaked. And all it's hard to watch actually. And then we go to this press conference.
Yeah, and we find out Billy is 43-0.
Now, if you look in the grand scheme of boxers' careers, 43-0 is a ridiculous number.
Yeah.
43-0 is a video game number. So he is either good or has fought. So we have to make the assumption he fights like that every time. He has to take the shots to get to the place he needs to be to end the fight, which is not good.
Yeah.
Especially if you've done it 43 times.
Yeah, it seems more like a street fighting kind of thing.
It's brawling.
Yeah.
In the archetypes of boxing styles, it's literally just brawling and pure
like you
physical
have to
ability.
Wait for that anger to, no pun intended, hit you before you can start doing that.
It's not a pun because you have to get hit to get that anger.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, I'm agreeing.
Yeah.
We go to the press conference. We find out that he's 43-0, and there's actually a couple really cool lines in this press conference where the reporter asks him, "So, Billy, you're 43-0," and he stops and he goes, "Hey, could you say that again?" It's a pretty cool. Like he plays this really well, because he sounds like a guy who just happens to be a great boxer. We forget that boxers. We see people like Deontay Wilder, who's this over-the-top real-life boxer who wears suits of armor to the ring, and we forget that they're just guys. And he's just kind of a guy who happens to be really good at this. And he's asking, the reporter asks about a couple things, and eventually... and he's actually being really respectful to Jones. There's a couple times where he's like, it was a hard fight. There's the good joke about, so how did you see this fight going? And he goes, well, I was hoping I'd show up and get in the ring and he would fall down and I'd win. But no, he says, no, I expected a hard fight. Jordan's a good fighter. I knew it was going to be tough. He's being very respectful. Mm-hmm. And then Miguel hijacks. Like, it's one of the best press conference hijacks I've ever seen. Like, it would be cool to see in real life because we've seen things like that in real life. And every time it's entertaining, but every time it's stressful to watch.
Like, that's basically what it's all about, is like hyping up that next fight. So you've got this fighter coming into the press conference, and even though we've just learned that this fighter is 43-0, you have this other fighter coming in claiming that despite that number, he's not a champion, that he's never been hit by a real man, because that's like what fighters do. They have to, like, you know, hype up these fights. And
but also, whenever there is a champion who has a run like that, which we've seen on multiple occasions, there's always that one other guy that they haven't fought yet. That you go, if there is someone who's going to beat them, it's going to be that guy.
Yeah.
So he's portraying himself, the movie's actually portraying Miguel as that one fighter that he may or may not be ducking, which we find out about, who might be the guy who has the talent to beat him. And Billy's like, I mean, which there's another good line here because he's holding this little styrofoam cup. He's like, is this guy all right? What's he got in that cup? Like, he plays it so well. After the press conference, Billy is talking to his man. I forget, what's the manager's name?
Oh, I don't remember.
I'll get it. Hold on. Anyway, he's talking to him and he's like, I want that fight, set the fight up. I want to shut him up. Like, he is now in it for protecting his name, his legacy, what he, like, and his manager says, no. We're going to take the Torre fight. It's another guy, he just names this other fighter. He goes, it just makes sense. And here's one of the lines that will come back to haunt you to watching this movie multiple times. If it makes money, it makes sense. And we hear it probably 6 times throughout the movie, and every time it's not good. This time, he's kind of alluding to the idea that his manager may not think he can beat Miguel, which really gets under his skin, and eventually he turns around and flips the table behind him over in front of the media scrum that's a little while, that's like down the hall a little bit, and he immediately turns around, and this is another cool moment where he flips the table over and then he immediately turns around and he's like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean, and these are the things that we get from the character. We learn a lot about him in that moment. He gets emotional, he doesn't handle it well, and he immediately knows what he did wrong. Okay, so Curtis Jackson plays Jordan Maines. Which he's a friend also that they grew up with on the streets, but is now his manager. So if no Billy, there would be no Maines. It comes back around eventually. And he gets upset about it. They go home. They leave, which actually it's pretty cool because the name on their car is Be Hope Forever. Cool little bit. Hi, baby. Oh, I get kisses. Thank you. Oh, thank you. We see the exterior. We see the exterior of this beautiful mansion that they live in, and this is where we get the first piece of that Horner score, which this is Cry for Love Part 1, which I absolutely adore the score to this film. It's melancholic. It's mostly violin. It's not what you would think of as a score for a boxing movie. Most people, when you say boxing movies, they automatically think of Rocky, and you get these very horn-heavy, like, marching songs. Not here.
Oh, and before they get home, too, like, after the fight, we see Maureen texting, and she's actually texting their daughter because she texts, Daddy just won the fight.
Mm-hmm. And then at the press conference, she texts another one of the lines that haunt you because there are certain things that people say and do that haunt you throughout this movie. And she says, "We're on our way home."
Yeah.
Not gonna cry. When they get home, the first thing Billy does, and it's adorable, is he starts calling for their daughter. Layla, where are you at? And she's like, and they're obviously been drinking a little bit because she's like, shut up. She's probably asleep. It's the middle of the night, and their nanny, their au pair, whatever she is like, no, she's still awake. She's been awake for you this all the time. And even she's like, oh, I'm so proud of you. This isn't a character, but it really does show how the people around us in whatever role they hold can be important. He goes upstairs, and we get anytime the movie shows all three of them interacting, it's these beautiful, touching family moments. Like, the way they talk to each other is kind of the family we all wish we had.
Yeah.
There's this love and understanding in everything they say. He gets home, and she pretends to be sleeping. There's this really cute, like, and they play a game because she's not allowed to watch the fights. Maureen thinks that the fights are too violent, so she doesn't allow Layla to watch the fights. But they play a game when he gets home after every fight where she counts the cuts. And on this one, she counts and she goes, 8. You got hit a lot, Dad. And he says, you should see the other guy. And that's exactly where Maureen goes, no, she shouldn't. Because he actually does look worse.
Yeah.
There's a joke here about she pulls out her cell phone.
Because she's 10 years old and she has a cell phone.
She's 10 years old and she's got a phone. Are you crazy? You told me to get her the phone. And he's like, what? Yeah, I did? Or I guess so. It's a really... It carries a lot in the way of how we see these actors as a family. It may not be a story-driven moment, but it really is heartfelt in how we see these. Like, the chemistry between these three actors, you really feel that there's a real family there. Where was I?
So then the next scene, they're in the bedroom, and
what song's playing in the background?
I don't remember. What was it?
It's The Weeknd's first hit, Wicked Games.
Oh. So yeah, they're in the bedroom.
Oh, you want me to do that? I thought you were having notes. I thought you were going.
I have some notes for like a little bit.
I thought you were going to do it. I was proud of you. Okay. So they're starting to have intimate time in the bedroom. But Maureen wants to have a real conversation here. And she says, maybe we should skip the next fight. Take some time. Because, we haven't had much time as a family, and you're going fight after fight after fight. So to be only in his mid-30s and have 43 fights, do the math on that, fights per year on average. Generally, a champion fights once, maybe twice a year, and he has 43 professional fights. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So he's been fighting non-stop since he went pro, fight after fight. She explains in this, and this dialogue scene is a massive amount of story. She's scared that he's going to be punch drunk very soon because she's noticing that it takes more and more for him to get to that spot, to get to that place where, okay, now it's time for me to end the fight.
But he, in his head, he's like, well, I won that fight.
Right.
But there's one thing I've learned since I started watching, like, the UFC with you. Like, there are times where even if someone you're rooting for, like, wins a fight, it's not always, like, a great win. Like, you can get very frustrated watching someone fight, and you know that they can do better or they can end a fight earlier. And so not all the wins that you see feel like good wins.
Exactly. And especially if you are that person's significant other.
Yeah.
Like, we watch that and it's just guys we kind of like as fighters.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine being a family member?
Yeah.
And being like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Most recently, it was probably Stephen Thompson that we did that, where we were like, come on.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Mm-hmm.
And they have this conversation, but before they get into the depth of the conversation, there's another one of those moments where you really get to like Billy because he has a sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I didn't like the way you won though, and he's explaining like, look, me winning like this bought this house, me winning bought that dress, and she's like, but baby, look at your face.
Yeah,
and he
like,
goes, but okay. What would you think if I came up to you, started crying, and went, baby, look at your face?
Yeah, so he is like, the way I fight bought us this house, but she's like, well, yeah, that may be, you may, like, get us this lifestyle, but I want to enjoy it with you. Mm-hmm. And she's scared of, like, what it's going to be like for him in 2 years.
She even says, what kind of a person will you be when Layla graduates from high school?
Yeah.
Which we've seen fighters, especially the greatest ever, end up in places physically where it's sad to see.
Like, you haven't fought in, like, what, like over 10 years, and you still have, like, Matt does sometimes have, like, memory issues. Like, there are times where he repeats things to me a lot, and I'm like, oh, we already talked about that, or you already told me that before, but he doesn't, like, remember doing it.
Yeah. But also, I was talking about, like, Muhammad Ali, but thanks for that. Like,
what?
But at the end of his life, Muhammad Ali, he couldn't talk, he couldn't really communicate. When we talk about the greatest of all time, we also see someone like Anderson Silva, who, I mean, you've seen what happened to Anderson Silva physically. He had a disgusting leg break in fight once, and then he never really fully recovered to what we knew of him as the legendary, this mythical figure. And it's sad because while you fight for this legacy, you fight for this, and it's so hard to explain and articulately in words. And I feel like it's something that the movie does through a visual than I can do. You fight for what you're leaving for the history of fighting and sacrificing everything else. And this movie shows it really well, especially in this conversation between these two characters.
Yeah, the way it was shot, too, is pretty interesting because we have them going back and forth, and they're both in the scene, but, like, Billy is standing in the doorway, and then there's a mirror on that wall, and that's how we see Maureen, like, because she's sitting on the bed, and we just see her reflection in the mirror, but we can see them talking, and then the scene ends because he goes back to the bed, and they're kind of like resolving the conversation, and you just see them in the mirror.
Well, we
together.
Also get another line of dialogue that comes back. Only this one comes back once, and it's when it comes back, it hits hard. She says, "Listen, All these people, like, we learn about Robbie and John John, who are the two friends who, like, carry his belts around, and they're his buddies from back in the day. Mm-hmm. And then we know about the trainer's name. Eddie is the trainer. Mm. And she goes, all these people around you are they're gonna take their pound of flesh, and they're gonna keep you in this Billy Hope bubble. But when that bubble pops, they're just gonna scatter like roaches, and me and Layla are gonna have to pick up the pieces. Mm-hmm. Nope, I'm okay. And it's a really important line of dialogue, and it's so well written. It really shows that commitment. Because she doesn't care. They were orphans. They lived. Mm-hmm. They were. We find out through small pieces of dialogue that they were homeless. They had nothing. Mm-hmm. Maureen cares about none of this. He's like, well, look at your dress, look at the house, look at the car, and she's like, I don't care about any of that. We could be completely broke, as long as we have each other. And then They are into it, which actually there's another good joke. I'll leave you seeing the movie to get to hear the joke that they make about that, because it's but that's where we're gonna stop, is them going to bed in this particular scene.
And then Billy is gonna wake up in the morning, and that's where we'll start next week.
And we see what it really looks like the morning after a fight. Mm-hmm. And it is what it really looks like. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Matt Klaus.
I'm Tara Kostic.
Adopt, don't shop.
Think pink. Have a sparkling week. And if you don't have one already, go invest in a carbon monoxide detector, please.
Please. I truly believe that it saved our lives.
Yeah.
And the lives of possibly more people.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Good night.
Good night.